Obviously, I'm not Pastor John, but it is a privilege and an honor to be here with you this morning. My name is Geraldine Wilhite. I am the children's pastor at Grace Point, and Pastor John called me a little while ago and asked if I could be here with you this morning as he is traveling and trying to take care of some stuff with his family. So I know he appreciates your prayers, and he'll be back with you soon. This morning, I'm going to preach to you a sermon called The One with the Lost Causes. And I want to tell you why it's called that. I'm a big Friends fan. The TV show Friends. Like, I love that show. I think it's hilarious. My ringtone on my phone is even the Friends theme song. Like, it's gone a little far, but it's okay. But the thing with the show is every single episode is called The One with something. And so I was trying to think, because how many of you have ever felt like a lost cause? I know I have. I don't want to give away the ending, but it's called The One with the Lost Causes. And this morning, we're going to be in Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 43, aka the whole chapter. Mark chapter 5. And while you're turning there, I want to give you a little bit of a background to what's going on in Mark chapter 5. So, previously in Mark chapter 4, what we see is Jesus has been teaching. He's been on the hillside, he's been teaching, and he's teaching in these parables. And then, after he teaches, he goes on to ride on the boat and calm the storm. So his disciples have seen Jesus in action. Remember, on the boat, they're all terrified, and the storm came up, and he calmed the storm, and they were all like, whoa, who is this guy? Even the wind and the waves obey him. So they get across the sea, and then we see what happens in Mark chapter 5. They went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. And when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and he fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want from me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." Then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send him out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons. He was sitting there, dressed, and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man, and told them about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. And Jesus was getting into the boat. The man who had been possessed begged to go with him. Jesus did not let him, but said, "Go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." So this is a familiar story. Let's keep going in chapter 5 because you're going to recognize the next one as well. When Jesus had again crossed over by boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered around him while he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue leaders named Jairus came, and when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet. He pleaded earnestly with him, my little daughter is dying. Please, come put your hands on her so she will be healed and live. So Jesus went with him. A large crowd followed and pressed in around him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all she had. Yet, instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and she touched his cloak because she had thought, if I can just touch his clothes, I'll be healed. Immediately, her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she had been healed from her suffering. At once, Jesus realized that power had gone out from him, and he turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched me? His disciples said, you see the people crowding around you, and yet you can ask, who touched me? Like, come on, Jesus. But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, and trembling with fear told him the whole truth. He said to her, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering. While Jesus was still speaking, some people came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue leader, and they said, your daughter is dead. Why bother the teacher anymore? Overhearing what they had said, Jesus told them, don't be afraid, just believe. He did not let anyone follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw a commotion with people crying and wailing loudly. He went in and said to them, why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, but asleep. But they laughed at him. After he put them all out, he took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with him and went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, Talitha koum, which means, little girl, I say to you, get up. Immediately the girl stood up and began to walk around, for she was 12 years old. At this, they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this, and told them to give her something to eat. This is the word of the Lord. So, in our scripture this morning, we have 3 lost causes, right? We have the demon-possessed man, the woman with the issue of blood, and the dead girl. We're going to dive into each one of these for just a moment, and then we're going to figure out how does this relate to me where I am today. So this demon-possessed man, he lived among the tombs. He lived among the dead. He couldn't be restrained any longer, even though he had been chained hand and foot in the past. Everyone had given up on him. He had no family. They had sent him out to live among the tombs. Great name. There was no hope for this man. Nobody had a remedy for him. He was going to be bound by these chains, possessed by these demons for the rest of his life because there was nothing anybody could do for him and he couldn't fix it for himself. An important thing to notice here about this man, he the tombs to meet Jesus. It said in the scripture, he ran to Jesus. Keep that in mind. The woman with the issue of blood had suffered for 12 years with this issue. And it was probably a menstrual or uterine issue, which means that she would have been ritually unclean. And being ritually unclean means that she would have been excluded from almost every social contact in that time. Okay? She would not have had a husband. Her husband would have left her. Her family, who would have had to be the ones to provide for her, they would have given up on her too, because she was unclean. And if you touched somebody who was unclean, that made you unclean. So nobody wanted to be unclean, so they weren't going to go spend time with the unclean lady. So for 12 years, she didn't have any social contact. I know some of you are going, man, that might be kind of nice. But truthfully, 12 years, think about it, 12 years, no hugs. No hugs from your kids. Okay? Kids, no hugs from your parents for 12 years. Okay? Nobody to go to dinner with. Nobody to play video games with, kids. Nobody to be around you for 12 years. It was you, yourself, and you. Okay? You don't have that hug. And so how would you feel by 12 years into this? Lonely? Probably a little bit. Maybe even desperate for some human contact? Craving someone to love you? She hadn't had any of that for 12 years. She spent all of her money, but she didn't get any better. She was broke, and she was broken. But she heard about this Jesus guy. And she heard that morning, hey, Jesus just got off the boat, and he's coming through town. Imagine, she's desperate at this point. This is her last hope, her only hope, and so she starts to think to herself, if I could just get to him, if I could just touch just the garment that he's wearing, he can heal me. Jesus can heal me. He is my hope. So she took the biggest risk of her life. Maybe she wore something to cover her head because she didn't want anybody to notice that she's there, because that would cause a stink. So she maybe wore a hood, and she's walking along, and she's bumping through the crowd, and she gets so close, and then somebody in the crowd knocks her down. And he's walking away. There he goes. There goes her last hope. And so she crawls as hard as she can, as fast as she can, and she reaches out, and she can just reach the very edge. But she does. And immediately, it says in the scripture, immediately the bleeding stopped, and she was made whole. Amen. But then something amazing happens. You remember that 12 years without any social contact thing? What did Jesus say to her when she told him the truth? He said, "Daughter, your faith has healed you." Did you catch that first word? Daughter. She went from no family to the family of God with that one word. It's amazing. It's incredible. Somebody cared about her after 12 years. She was daughter. Now our little dead girl. There's really not much more of a lost cause than being lost their little girl. All of their hopes and dreams were tied up in this little life, and now it's gone. Jesus was on his way, but Jesus was too late. He didn't get there on time. So mixed in with this grief and this shock is probably some anger. Jesus, why aren't you here? Jesus, you can heal her. Where were you? Sounds like somebody else we know in the Bible. So they get there, and Jesus arrives, and Jesus says, "Don't worry, she's just sleeping." And they're like, "Jesus, no, no, that's not right." They laughed at him. Clearly, this kid was dead. There's no more hope for that. But they didn't know what we know. They didn't know that Jesus knew that this dead condition of this little girl was temporary. Jesus knew that he could raise her back to life. So he went into that room and he told her, "Little girl, get up." And she got up. So we see these three lost causes. We see demon-possessed man, bleeding woman, dead girl. And we see how Jesus took these lost causes and changed their lives, changed their situations. Because with Jesus, there are no lost causes. You may be thinking, that's great for all these people and these stories and in the Bible, but what does that have to do with me? Well, let's figure that out. Which of these three lost causes are you most like? Are you like the demon-possessed man? Maybe you're chained and haunted by the things that happened in your past. You believe that you can never escape from those things. Even if you're the only one who knows about them, you hide in shame. Because if anybody ever found out about that thing that you did 10, 15, 20 years ago, if anybody ever found about the thing that you did, you would never be able to show your face in public again, because that's a terrible thing. You think nobody can set you free from that sin or that bondage. You think that you're just going to have to hold on to this thing forever. Well, I have good news for you this morning. Jesus can and will set you free from that bondage.
Amen.
But the thing is, just like that demon-possessed man, you gotta run to him. He hid among the tombs. He lived in death. But when he saw Jesus, he ran to him. It wasn't just like, "Oh, look, it's Jesus." It was, "It's Jesus, and I've got to get to him." Run to Jesus this morning. Let him set you free from that bondage. Let him break those chains. He's never going to force himself on you. I mean, you might feel him working in your heart, but he's never going to force you to accept his love and grace. It's going to have to be your choice to run to him. Maybe you're more like the woman with the issue of blood and you feel alone. Maybe it's been 12 years. Maybe it's been more than that. But you don't think anybody loves you. Maybe you've been rejected and betrayed by someone who's supposed to be your friend. Or maybe you isolate yourself in fear because you don't know what other people are going to think about you. Maybe you long to be loved. Maybe you feel like your parents don't understand you, or you're all alone in this world. You are longing for someone to reach out to you and call you daughter, call you son. know. You're sitting here in this pew this morning because that's what you're supposed to be doing. But it doesn't mean anything. You're just here because if you don't come, you're going to feel really guilty. But through the week, there's nothing. But it's all whatever. You've lost the vitality of your faith. Like our little 12-year-old girl, she was alive. She was breathing. She was probably dancing around and smiling and happy because that's how kids are. But she's dead. Your faith is like that. It's lost its life. You think to yourself, what happened? What happened to me? You wake up each morning and you think, I should study my Bible, and you get to it and you're like, I don't even understand what these words mean, and you try to pray and it just feels like they're bouncing off the ceiling and hitting you in the face. Your faith is flickering. It's dead. It's not too late for you, just like it's not too late for that little girl. See, Jesus knew that he could come in and he could raise her back to life, and you, this morning, I'm telling you, Jesus can come in and he can raise you back to life. He's saying to you this morning, little girl, son, get up. He's reaching his hand out to you and he's saying, get up, get up. There's more for you to do. There's more life for you to live. There's a community outside of these walls that needs my love, and I'm sending you. So get up. You don't have to be dead anymore. Because with Jesus, there are no lost causes. He takes what the world has classified as bound in chains, unlovable and dead, and he sets them free, loves them, and brings them back to life. But he doesn't just do that. He can, but I've heard the saying, Jesus is a gentleman. He doesn't force you to come back to life. You don't have to be dead. You don't have to be bound. But if you want to change, you have to come to Jesus. Let him call you daughter. Let him call you son. Let him bring you back to life this morning. I'm going to pray, and I don't know how you do it here, but if you're feeling that the Lord is speaking to you, this altar is open. God is calling us to life. God is calling us to change. We can't just stay the same week after week and complain about how bad the world is if we don't do anything about it. So this morning, if you feel that the Lord is speaking to you, we're just going to be quiet for a couple of minutes. And then I'm going to close us in prayer. Gracious and holy Heavenly Father, we are grateful. We're grateful that we have the Bible to look back on and to see how you can change lives, how you can bring people back from the dead, God. And this morning, if anyone is here who is bound in shame or in sin, God, I pray that they would run to you this morning. God, I pray that they would release those chains. Let those chains be broken. God, sometimes it's a lot easier to hide behind them than it is to get rid of them. So, Lord, I pray that you would strengthen and equip us to do that. God, for those who feel so unloved, so misunderstood, God, I pray that you would wrap your arms around them and help them to know that you are their family. God, that you love them so powerfully. And God, for those who may be dead, God, call to them this morning and call them, get up. Little girl, get up. Son, get up. It's time. We can't stay dead any longer, God. So this morning I pray that you would just move in the hearts and lives that are represented here this morning. God, I thank you for this church and what they're doing here in their community. I thank you for their pastor and the way that he loves and leads them. God, I pray this morning that all of us would remember that there are no lost causes when it comes to you. That you can change and love and release all of us from any problem, any burden that we have. God, thank you for this time together today. I pray that you would be glorified throughout this week as we go and we live our lives remembering that there are no lost causes. Lord, we love you.